Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Martin Willis, your host. And for those of you who are watching this on video, you just saw a new intro, and that is basically a depiction of my UFO sighting. I talk about it now and then. That's what got me interested in actually looking into this topic to begin with. But I was sitting in a hot tub and Carmel Valley, California. Something caught my attention, and it was a UFO going over. Now, I tried with AI to get it so it didn't have lights, but it didn't have lights. It just had a blue glow around it. But anyway, that's the explanation for the new intro. And I actually love it. I think it came out pretty good. And anyway, our blog this week is a 1976 encounter from Spain. That's by Charles Lear. Very interesting. And as I mentioned a number of times, there's lots of them, historical blogs on podcastufo.com. So there's lots for you to read there. I think it's about 170 blogs and all historic, in different types of, some of them are new, but most of them are historic. So check that out over at podcastufo.com. So the audio blogs are now in the podcast feed only. You can catch our podcast anywhere there are podcasts. You can just put in podcast UFO and it'll pop up. Also, if you would like to have an ad-free experience for only $2 or more a month, you go to our website and you'll see the Patreon link. And that's a pretty easy thing to set up. It has setup instructions with that. Our guest tonight, someone contacted me a while ago and said that there were two brothers, one of them being a retired police officer that had family abductions for many generations, or a few generations, many decades, I should say. So, and by the way, next Tuesday, we have Marianne Robb and Dave Rich, both retired police officers. They're on a Tuesday evening. And then next Thursday evening, as it looks, he's always a little tricky to book, but it looks like we have James Fox for next Thursday. So that's Thursday at 8 p.m. So without further ado, I'm bringing in the two brothers, Upper State New York right now. Hello, guys. Welcome.
Hi, Martin. How are you? Pleasure to be here. I'm Chris.
I'm Sean.
Yeah. And Chris, I understand you almost were late because you have a lot of snow and ice up there, huh?
It's kind of like if you've ever seen The Empire Strikes Back.
Driving like that.
We're on Hoth till like May. Where are you?
Well, I'm South Carolina right now, but normally next week I'll be up in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, where I spend summers these days, and down here. So yeah, it's a good life. I like it. I really love it down here. And right near Savannah. So Savannah is a beautiful place. But anyway, thank you both for being here. I heard your stories. I did a little bit of research. You two have been talking about this for longer than I thought. I don't know why I hadn't heard it before, but I guess you have been out there publicly since 2010-ish, from what I can find.
Well, we've been talking about this since 1996, but at that point, there were no spaces on X or anything like that. I was haunting the bulletin boards and National UFO Reporting Center with Peter Davenport. In 2000, I caught footage of some craft in this area, and that made it to CBS News overnight on January 10th, 2000. And Sean contacted Bud Hopkins. And as soon as Bud Hopkins heard a police officer, lifelong abductee, he was like, hold my beer. And he came up and stayed a couple of days.
Oh, wow.
And it interviewed our whole family, which was, it was a big event because my parents were reluctant to talk. But when Bud Hopkins showed up, they opened up. And then he discussed our case in 2005 on CNN's top-rated show, which was Larry King Live. So we've been at this for a while, certainly. And they've been taking us all our lives.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that. And I haven't had a lot of people that are what they call today experiencers, but I've had, some on, but I think it's interesting. I know it can be part of it. And there's some amazing stories that I'm sure you both have looked into over the years. The Allagash incident, Travis Walton, and, many, many more very interesting and cases. And, I mean, when I very first got into this, I said, well, I know for sure there are UFOs. I saw a UFO, but I don't know about that part of it. And then, then when I sat and talked with people like Travis Walton face to face and other people like that, it's like, I don't see any red flags. And there's, I mean, it's kind of like, well, if they're going to go over the Arctic and they're going to dart a polar bear, they're not just going to leave it there. They're going to go down and tag it or whatever. You know what I mean? So if they're coming here, whatever they are, and wherever they're coming from, because I still don't really know for sure. I don't think anyone really does. Of course, they may be, checking out the life here.
They're doing more than checking out the life here.
Yeah.
They're moving in, and they're breeding our replacements, hybrids. I've been introduced to a hybrid son. Sean had a similar experience. I mean, they're very tight-lipped. They don't tell you where they're coming from. You're not going to get that from them. In fact, they showed up 80 years ago, uninvited, unwelcome, and started operating in complete secrecy, never speaking a word to humans, the American public, about what they're doing. And then they started abducting people. And Sean said, they're so secretive, they don't even want abductees to know they're being abducted, right?
Yeah. I mean, not only do they not want other people to know, they don't even want the abductees to know. And they're very good at what they do. There's no doubt about it. And if it weren't for them making a big mistake, we wouldn't have remembered what had happened to us throughout our lives.
So, Sean, I got to ask you, you were obviously a working police officer during the time where when you were talking about this. And has that caused you any problem?
Actually, I did not use my name until after I retired. Like when Bud Hopkins was on CNN, he just mentioned police officer. He didn't use my name, but he described our account vividly. So
he referred to it as an important case. You don't get a lot of career law enforcement officials speaking openly about a lifetime of abductions by the Greys.
And it was, I think it was the abduction that happened in the daytime that was witnessed by the family that also drew his attention.
All right. Well, I don't know if you want to dive into that or anyone in particular, or the very first, chronological situation in your family. Do you want to talk about that? Your mother was out walking a dog. Do I have that right? Or did I hear part of that?
That's the earliest we know. There was an incident. My mother was 12 and she was walking the family dog, living with, of course, my grandparents. And it was a bright sunny day and she was only a few blocks from the house. But all of a sudden, a shadow fell over the street. And the shadow had like 3 points. It was covering the street and a little bit went on the lawns on either side of the suburban street. And she looked up and there was a gray metallic triangle over her head. She said it was close enough that if she had a ladder, she could have touched it. And it was at first we didn't really care, because even though we were being abducted since the beginning, they make it so you can't recall. They cover those memories until they come back. And the way we know about this incident was our grandparents, right?
Yeah.
Our grandparents would whenever there was a UFO story on the news in the 70s, right? We were kids. And our grandparents would say, oh, it's just like that time with Rose. Your mother, she was walking the dog, and they would tell us again and again the story. And we're like, yeah, okay, whatever, Grandpa. We weren't really interested. But yeah, she looked up and she couldn't understand how it could be silent and hovering with she said there was no air displacement, no hum, no sounds it was just right above her. And she looked up at it, and there was a black rectangle in the center, which she thought was an open hatch because she looked into it and it was just black. And then the next thing she remembers, it was night. It wasn't afternoon anymore. And she was in the same spot. The dog was gone. And she started walking home, not knowing what happened. And my grandparents, they freaked out when the dog came home before her. Before that, they thought she was with friends, something like that. And when the dog came home alone, they hopped in the car and they were going to search the neighborhood for her. And she came walking up the driveway. And so that's where it all started for us. The only reason Sean and I are, abductees is because we're mom's kids. Whatever they look for, mom had it. So.
And let me ask you this. Oftentimes when people talk about, by the way, I've been adjusting the screen just because we run two different streams. One of them is for people using their smartphone, and I can't make it work with you two, side by side, unfortunately for those, so they can just hear your voice basically. But so a lot of times people will say that they're abducted up until a certain age and then it stops. Is that what happened to your mother?
They continued to take her for years and years. Sean, they took her with Sean many years, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know when her last abduction would have been, but it was at least through my teens with her and my father as well. I know I was taken with them. And for me, I mean, I was taken as recently as a couple of years ago.
And what about you?
He has 50 years of abductions. Me, my abductions went from 1966 to, I moved away around 1990 to Albany. And I think they stopped about then, 89, 90. But then in 96, they showed up over the backyard. Their ship was materializing. It was coming through some hole in the sky. It was a bright sunny day. It was 6 p.m. And what they were doing is they were bringing Sean back from an abduction. You worked overnights, right?
Yeah, I worked the midnight shift at the police department. And that day, like every other, that day I might have worked over, so I got to sleep late. And so it was probably noon or so when I went to bed.
So day. Yeah, and Sean's their favorite, okay? But so if they had to take him after noon, and then here it is 6, and there was family in the backyard. We were all invited to a barbecue and hang out by the pool in my parents' backyard. Sean was still living there. He had just started as a cop, right? And he was saving up for a home. So we were basically just waiting for Sean to wake up and come upstairs, and then we would start cooking and hanging out.
And Dad to get home, right? He wasn't home.
And for our father, who was commuting back from Albany. So, but what we didn't know is that Sean was not in that room. He was in this craft that was coming through from someplace else and becoming more and more solid over the course of, I don't know, six or so minutes. It took a while for this craft to come through from wherever, from this other place. At first, it was translucent, and it was warbling and warped like a heat mirage on a hot road. And the craft slowly came through, and it was fuzzy and indistinct. Then it became more clear. You could tell it was spinning, the top half one way and the bottom half the other way. And then it was chrome bright. It was fully here with us, because now the sunlight was reflecting off the top, and a shadow was cast from the bottom. And Sean was in that craft.
He didn't know it at the time.
No, I didn't know. In fact, they do such a good job of covering your memories.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to, for the other stream to work, the people are complaining they can't see it, but you can kind of get a little closer together. We can make this work.
A step
Your brothers, for goodness sake, it's no problem.
And I'll just lean over his shoulder like this.
Yeah.
That's right. I am the Will Ferrell.
No, go ahead and sit down. That's okay.
So, well, this is the way we are when we just hang out.
Okay.
We watch movies like this. We're
all right. Hey, so let's see, Sean, I want to ask you, so you're an officer. This is happening to you while you're a police officer. And so do you think, is there communication? Was there, I mean, I'm just wondering what the dynamics of that situation. And also after you retired, you decided to talk about it. Have any of your former friends in the officers find out about this situation, and have you heard from them and talked to them about this?
No, I don't really keep in touch with any of them. However, there were other officers there who they didn't witness anything with me, but there's a couple of cops who have very good photographs of UFOs. There's another one who saw one in a nearby town with his friends when they were out one night.
Is that the one where they were hovering over a hydroelectric dam?
Yeah.
And sucking up energy? According to them.
Yeah.
Right?
And then there was, I know there was a report on the other side of town. Somebody reported a UFO landing in their backyard. I do know that.
And there was actually a crop circle.
Crop circle, long time ago, well before, when we were kids. Right here in the city.
I was maybe 30 when the crop circle was.
Okay, all right.
So it was early 90s, but and there was so it was not a thing you go into the station with. And
Sean, I feel like you should sit down. I'll just, this is fine.
Should I like squat or?
No, you guys are fine.
And sideways.
That's just fine, just like this. This works great. So I don't want to see him standing up the whole time. But anyway, and Chris, you're an artist. You do comedy. You're a comedy writer and stand up and all that. So what about your life? And does this ever fall into, people finding out, hey, in some type of way, you're also, I love your art, but also I'm hearing these things about you being abducted. Anything like that happen?
Anything like what?
Anything like people like clients that buy your artwork or anything like that, do they know this side of you?
Oh, up until the Pentagon disclosures, if you mention aliens, they start filling out the mental health unit papers for you. I didn't care. I'm well certain of what happened, and I picked many fights, but it's not the sort of thing I tried to work into my careers. People tell me, why don't you put it in your comedy act? Because it's not comedy. Because it's not even funny. It is deadly serious. So I really can't do that.
But a lot of comedy is based through pain. I have a good friend that's Paul Gilmartin is, a well-known comedian, and he uses, I guess I should say comedy is, a lot of it is spurred from pain. So, that's how we deal with things.
Okay. And I'm glad it's working for him, but I'm not really concerned with my trauma or pain or any of that. There was really not much of it. They're very good at controlling your emotions during abductions. You're sedated largely. But what I am concerned with is vengeance. With sounding an alarm, we are Paul Revere, okay? This is life and death. And after 80 years, you think people would be able to start to piece it together. They are here not to help, but to help themselves. And they've told me to my face that they are moving in. And What the tall grays have said to me was, soon we will all live here together and everyone will know his place. Guess where our place is? Exactly where it is with them now. That you are zombified slaves.
Well, you know, a lot of people are going to have a hard time with this. And I know there's no way that you can show us proof of anything.
Listen, I owe nobody proof, okay? People are lucky that we are speaking the truth about what is going on. They can take it or leave it. They can dismiss us both at your own peril. But it's my duty, it's my responsibility, after having gone through all of this, to tell people what's happening, and it's not good. So take it or leave it. I don't know anybody proof. It's funny how all your friends, if you ever talk to them about it, they start demanding proof. Prove it to me. Prove it to my satisfaction. And I'm like, dude, you work for Uber Eats. When did you become judge? When did I go on trial? I'm telling you, you're welcome. Do with it whatever you want. That's a thing that came about in the 50s when, if people reported a flying saucer, everyone demanded proof. Where's your proof? Get your proof out here. Show it to me. And to my level of satisfaction, too, not, convincing evidence. Which is what, by the way, CBS News.
The old days, they wanted an ashtray from abductees. Did you get an ashtray off the UFO?
That's how long we've been doing this, right? They used to say, oh, all you got to do is grab an ashtray to prove it.
Because we all know how big smokers these aliens are.
Yeah, Gray's big Territon smokers.
So that's what they used to, what they yelled through the 80s, I would say, probably.
And it's not really hard to piece it together. I mean, my God, they've shown up here and acted in secrecy. They monitored our nuclear missile silos. They turned on a launch sequence. They shut another silo down. They hovered over the White House for 3 days in 1952. These are all before me. People should know this. And then when the abduction reports started piling up, start taking people seriously. That's all you have to do. What do you think they're here for? I hear a lot of, I don't want to dominate this conversation, but yeah.
And it's one thing, the way we look at it, for a skeptic who doesn't even believe UFOs are here, but it's hard for me to see eye to eye with somebody who understands that these are alien beings and that they're here, but yet don't understand that abductions are actually happening. They didn't come here just to fly around our atmosphere. They're here. They're doing work. They're abducting not only us, they're abducting people on a mass scale.
And
they're just so good at what they do. Most abductees, like us, had no idea it's happening to them.
Until this incident in 1996, when we were confronted with the reality of it. We couldn't evade it. And I interrupted. I went and grabbed Sean before they could put him back to sleep.
Okay, let's talk about that whole situation. You're at the barbecue and you're thinking he's upstairs. So why don't you just recount that whole story?
Sure. At this point, Sean hasn't really entered the story, but it's important to hear it from both of us.
Go ahead.
There's very little of that. We're at the barbecue. I was not even looking. For some reason, I picked up a newspaper and I was holding it blocking the sky. Why would I do that? I hate that newspaper because they influenced me to do that. And it was my mom who said, "There's that UFO you wanted to see," to me, because it's never out of our conversations. And I thought she was busting my balls. I didn't look up from the newspaper. Then my aunt, who was there, said, "Wait a minute, what is that?" And my mom said, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, they're going to all this effort for me to, to prank me. Great. I lower the paper and I'm like, okay, and that's as far as my sentence got, because this craft was all kinds of crazy energy influencing it. And it was just slowly coming into our world. And I didn't know what it was. I thought they'd been taking me since the Johnson administration. All right. 100 times plus. But they're so good at covering your mind, you don't know it. So I'm like, wow, what is this? And I'm thinking it's a promotions balloon or blimp. There's a big race course over near us, but nothing made sense. It was a disc-shaped craft, and once I came into clarity, I knew it. And then it lit up like a road flare, points of light coming off it, like needles of light, pink, orange, gold color to it. And at the moment I was thinking, thank God I saw it before it lit up. I'd have no idea what this was, but it was getting scary. The rest of the family, they were still in a trance. They were standing, looking up, mouths agape, shoulder to shoulder, and nobody, including me, spoke a word since when I said, okay, and lowered the paper. But I was getting my senses back, my sense. And I was scared. I was angry that they would show up over our house. And I knew we needed to get Sean, because Sean has guns. And this might go south on us any minute. And nobody would know whatever happened to us. So I go to get Sean, and I run, and I get to the door, and I stop. Suddenly there's a thought in my head saying, wait, don't go inside. If you come back out, you'll miss this. This is your chance to see something like this. Don't go inside. And for maybe 40 seconds, it slowed me down. I stopped, but my instincts were coming back. My sense of that we were in serious danger. And I looked at my mom, my aunt, my cousin, everyone who was there in a trance, and all women and kids. So I said, we got to get the other man. We got to get Sean. And I pushed past their thought to make me stop. And I ran down. Sean was in the basement apartment, the lower level. It's great. There's curtains so he can sleep, and it's dark. I ran down 4 steps at a time, and I get to his door, and I'm going to throw it open and say, Sean, get up. There's a flying saucer outside. There's a UFO. Get your gun, get up. But a thought in my head as I touched the door said, don't open the door. You will startle him. And Sean has a gun, and he could shoot you. Don't open the door. And a part of my head said, oh boy, I hadn't thought of that. Okay. So instead I pound on the door. Bum, 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 bum. My fist, my forearm. It was almost breaking it. Sean, get up. There's a UFO outside. Get up. And I run back upstairs to see if it's still there. And then Sean can take over with this.
Sure. All right. Well, for me, it starts. First thing I remember, I don't remember being taken. I have no idea where we went. But first thing I remember is being in the air, looking down at my family by the pool. And I didn't feel like I was out of place. I wasn't scared. I wasn't nervous. I didn't wonder what I was doing there. I saw my family by the pool. I got excited. I wanted to go swimming with them. So I audibilize, can I go swimming? And, at that point, I didn't even see who I was on the craft with. But once I said that, off to my right side, maybe 8 or 10 feet, A short gray alien was standing parallel. I noticed him standing parallel to me and facing the same direction. And he leaned forward and he tilted his head to look at me. And he says, "We're taking you to bed. You can get up and go swimming." And he even emphasized the word up. So that's when I noticed, because I was looking in his direction, I noticed right behind me there were two taller gray aliens, and they were standing directly behind each shoulder. There was one right here behind my right shoulder and one behind my left shoulder. And when I looked at him, I got no response out of him. He was basically motionless, and I was really close eye to eye with him. And with the ship, when I said I saw my family outside, it wasn't as if I was looking out a window or anything. It's as if the side of the craft wasn't even there from the inside. I could just see the outdoors.
What about where you were standing? Could you
I
look
was
down at
sitting
your
on the
feet?
floor. But I can't tell you exactly what the floor looked like. Oh, and so after I asked to go swimming, and he said, but I can't tell you what it looked like behind him or anything like that. I just remember seeing his face. I'm not sure about the floor. And like I say, the exterior of the craft was not even visible to me. I could just see outdoors. And I don't know if that was for my benefit or for theirs. But when I looked down there, I got excited. I wanted to swim. He told me they were taking me to bed. And I looked back forward after looking face to face with the taller gray. And I noticed the pool water. There was all these little dots of light like reflecting off the water. And I thought to myself, boy, that's really weird. And I thought to myself from there, I said, geez, it must be the sun's reflection from this angle because I'm from an elevated view. But that didn't make sense at all. It was all kinds of little lights, and they were like almost skipping across and bouncing off the water, off the waves. And my little cousin was in the shallow end. And the next thing I know is I'm in the basement. And when I'm in the basement, all of a sudden I feel real groggy, as if I'm under anesthesia or maybe drunk, whereas I felt completely normal when I was on the craft. And the craft itself was between our house and the house next door. And we ended up in the basement on the side of the house where the craft was. And I've got an arm over each alien's shoulders, like a drunk being helped to bed by his buddies. And I really felt that I was having trouble walking. They were doing most of the work. And I looked to the alien on my right, and I thanked him for helping me. I said, thank you. And he didn't respond at all. So I thanked him again. And this time his response was, yeah. Okay, that's exactly
typical
what he
New
said.
Yorker alien. Yeah.
So from there, I don't remember actually getting into bed, but they brought me to the bedroom. I don't remember squeezing through the door jamb or if we walked through the wall that was there. I honestly don't remember. But next thing I remember is I'm in bed, and there's an alien on the side of my bed, and I only know this because I hear him. It's telepathy. It's telepathic, but I would describe it as hearing it directly into my head. And he's in an absolute panic. He says, he's coming. We're going to get caught. And he says it in an absolute panic. Like I've never seen anybody in that much fear before. And the other one sitting at the foot, or standing at the foot of the bed, I should say, turns to him and says, no, he's not yet. And I was falling asleep at the time, and I just heard him going back and forth, and I just had to know, A, who's coming, And what's he worried about getting caught? Who could they be worried about catching them? And are they not supposed to be doing this? You know, getting caught implies you shouldn't be doing it. And they're worried about somebody catching them. And in my head, I was thinking, is there some supreme being that they're afraid of that's on his way to catch them? So I sat up in bed and I said, who's coming? And at that point, they were both at the foot of the bed. They turned their heads to look directly at me. And they said, go to sleep. And I had no choice but to lay back down, started off to drift to sleep. And that's when I heard banging on the door. Boom, 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 boom. Sean, get up. There's a UFO outside. And it took me just a second to realize what's happening. Oh, I tried to answer him. When he said that using telepathy, because I was just using telepathy with the aliens. And I said to him, of course there is. They were just here. They just left, is what I said. And then it took me a second. I said, what's going on here? And I threw the covers off and I ran upstairs. And by the time I got there, the UFO was gone.
I came upstairs and it was moving away after waking up Sean. It was now over the next street. And strangely, it had turned to, instead of flat disc like a record album, it was like a wheel. And it was slowly sparkling and moving away. Sean comes up and the rest of us are like, you wouldn't believe it, Sean. This is a flying saucer. It was right here. It was unbelievable. I didn't know it was real. Is this real? And Sean was wincing in pain. I'm looking at him and he was struggling like in a prison movie where the guy's in the hot box for a month and they take him out and the daylight is too much. And I thought, oh man, we really woke him up harshly there. And he's listening to it all. And I tell Sean, let's get in your convertible and let's go that way. It's heading east. Let's get on 29, see if we can catch it. Because I really wanted Sean to see it.
So I was in pain when I came upstairs. It felt like it was extraordinarily bright to be up there. And it felt like I shouldn't have been awake yet. I still felt a little bit groggy. And I'm standing there and I'm wrestling with the realization of what just happened, because I remembered it all from the point of being up in the air there looking down at the family. But not only that, all the other memories came back to me of my youth and childhood and memories with my family being taken as well.
You mean instantaneously?
They were coming one after another. I can't tell you I had, 60 thoughts in 1 second, but one would come after another. And I don't know if they all showed up that day, but there were a lot of them coming back to me right away.
So we're in the car and we're driving towards it and I'm going on and on about it. And Sean finally tells what's happening. And he said, yes, of course, they were bringing me back. They were just here. And I thought, I was abducted before Travis Walton, before Whitley Strieber. I go way back, but they did such a job on my mind of covering the memories that what I said to Sean was, oh no, Sean, we're not talking about an alien abduction. I'm just talking about there was a flying saucer over the house for 10 minutes. I couldn't make the connection right there. And I was a little worried. I was a little worried for him. And he was adamant. And he said to me, they've taken you too, a lot. And I got condescending. I said, oh, come on, Sean. I think if I was taken in a spaceship by aliens, I would remember it. And Sean said, we're driving the car, looking for it. It had veered off.
Yeah, so I say, don't you remember the time Mom screamed, they're back. Why do they have to come back? And he finished the phrase with me.
Why do they always have to come back? In that instant, I remembered that abduction. It was our whole family. They came for us at like 11 a.m., which was unusual. They landed a ship in our backyard, and there was a tall gray and two short grays. We were watching TV in the living room when Mom started screaming. And I had no idea who.
And what type of property is it? Is it secluded? Like, is there like a field and woods, and what's it like?
Absolutely not. It is the top of a brand new
quarter-acre lots.
This was a half-acre.
But the one house that he's referring to had a larger lot, a half-acre. But there's still houses surrounding you.
It is 40 feet off of Route 29, which is at the time was very busy east-west route. It ran from Boston to Buffalo. It was right there, and it was the daytime. Now we did have privacy shrubs, but who's not seeing this craft? And it wasn't a flying saucer that landed. It looked like an Airstream trailer, that rounded, elegant silver, but up on its end more. I mean, it had two folding struts, and there were three beings. It's like all of a sudden the world is surreal, because even though they've been taking me forever, they had my memories covered. So that was the one. It broke it for me. Sean mentioned that, and I'm like, oh my God, I remember that. Of course I remember that.
So here's a question for you here. Was the craft the same in all the abductions?
No.
Oh,
you
no.
just mentioned it.
No.
A lot of different.
We've been in all kinds of ships. Large for you?
They're usually different. I don't always see the craft itself. A lot of times, especially even recently, they'll come into the bedroom and I don't necessarily see the craft. There was one time when I was floating underneath as a kid, I looked up and briefly saw it. And another time they had me outside the craft flying where I could barely see the craft.
And they took you out of a station wagon with Mom and Dad, right?
Yeah.
In 1984.
Yeah, where they were just they were waiting for us to come down the street. They were hiding behind a large tree in a neighbor's property. And as soon as our car went by, the lights went on, and it's like a Ferris wheel. It started turning, coming down the street at us.
And Dad saw it first?
Yeah.
And anyway, but just to finish the point, we would not be sitting here talking with you or anyone about this if those aliens didn't F up. I don't know if this is a family podcast.
Yeah, I usually don't swear, but yeah.
So they effed up.
Yeah.
Badly. And what happened was I got Sean before his memories were covered. So Sean remembers everything.
Before I went back to sleep. I strongly believe if I had gone back to sleep.
So it sounds like.
If I had woken up an hour or two later, I never would have remembered that this had happened. But
all right.
Go
ahead.
As a child, I did remember what was happening to me.
Yeah.
Like I made a deal with them early on. I didn't like the paralyzation. I called it freezing as a kid. And when they would come, I asked them, would you not freeze me anymore? And they said, so long as you do as you're told, we won't do it anymore. And they lived up to that deal, at least up until recently. But I would greet them when they came. I would be excited as a kid. There were times where I was petrified.
Yeah.
But,
Well, I have to say, one of the things I've said on this show a number of times over the years, like, if this was happening to me, I don't know how I could function in life.
I'm sure it affects a lot of people negatively. I'm sure it does. Whether people have substance abuse issues or they end up in prison. I would agree with you. I bet a lot of people have trouble dealing with it.
I asked them as a kid, why do you always make me forget? And what the tall gray said was, we want you to live a normal life. And that would not be possible if we let you remember. And I got the feeling it was kind of bullshitting too. Sorry about that. Because I was thinking in my mind after he said that, yeah, Plus, I can't run to the cops the next morning, or the state police, or the National Guard. If every abductee woke up the next day and remembered, they would not be able to get away with any of this. It would cause it would be a national crisis, of course, which it is. For these people that you mentioned who might have a hard time getting used to the idea that it's negative or considering it, all you have to do is look at abductions. Every abduction is a series of felonies that would land any of us in prison forever. How about home invasion?
Yeah.
How about kidnapping children?
I heard another police officer that I had on my show basically say exactly the same thing.
It's true. Yeah. If your neighbor did this to your child, you'd be outraged. If an alien does it, they kind of roll their eyes.
Yeah. They're like, oh, well, maybe they just don't know better.
Can't really arrest them. It's not going to.
Yeah. And let's not stop there. Human trafficking into space, for God's sakes. Unwanted surgeries that you know nothing about. And then it gets really bad. Sexual abuse, forced reproduction, forced hybridization. These things don't like us. Just because they're abducting us doesn't mean they're your friend. In fact, the record is quite clear that what they're doing is for their own advantage.
However, and so why?
Because they're taking the planet. It's very simple. They're Columbus. We're the Indians. This is not a metaphysical species that's all about spirituality. They're about territory and resources. Just like the sad thing about this alien contact is that the rules out there are the same as the rules down here. The strong take from the weak and they do what they want with them. This is not a friendly visit. They've told me they're moving in and we will know our place.
But why here? There must be so many other planets that are occupied by intelligent life.
Well, you take a look at Neptune or Pluto, where it rains glass and needles, okay? And nothing solid can live. And you take a look at Earth with the Riviera and the Mediterranean and the breadbasket and the oceans. This is a beautiful planet. I mean, I don't see
it is, but there should be many more, many more like this.
Yeah, well, you don't know how many they've been to, and I'm not sure what their agenda is. And they have been friendly, at least on an individual basis. When they come and get you, they get you as a kid, they treat you with kid gloves. They want to make sure nothing happens to you. They answered my questions as a child. They would talk to me. They never said, shut up. They always had a response to what I had to say. And if the tall gray got angry, he took it out on the short gray if we were farting around too much. He never yelled at me. There was only one time where I felt they, could have been nicer to me. And that's when they took the skin sample, the scoop mark from me.
And do you actually have that scar now?
Still? I do, yeah.
Now, when you were talking with Bud, did couple things. Did he first of all regress both of you hypnotically regress or try to?
It failed with both of us. For me, it was starting to work. Like I felt the energy going up and down my leg, and what it made me had to do was take a pee. And he warned me and told me to go use the bathroom first, and I didn't. And as soon as I had to, he got frustrated, which made it harder for me to relax. So it didn't work for me. All these memories that I have, and they are fragmented. I don't remember most of what's happened on the ships all these times, but I do remember some of it. But the regression did not work with me.
It didn't work with me either. One of the factors was he was doing it at noon in my apartment at the time, which had sheer curtains, light pouring in, heavy traffic in front of my house. And I had two kittens that were meowing and screaming. It did not work. And I'm fine with that because, frankly, I think it would have been a black mark on what we have to
Yeah,
say.
people would have been like, "Oh, regressed memories." Yeah,
Right. What we're telling you is what we remember clearly.
So were there any other, have there ever been, you talk about being on the busy route there, 40 feet away from Route 29 or whatever it is.
No?
Are there other witnesses that have
Yes.
actually seen the craft or anything?
Absolutely.
We've had a lot of witnesses. We have a map. All our abductions were from 15 different locations. The furthest apart they were 2.5 miles. It was in busy parts of Saratoga Springs. That's and there were times there were witnesses, his friends.
Yeah, they took me in front of, I don't know, a dozen friends or so. They used mind control on my mother to have her come out of the house and wave me into the house to take me. And as soon as I went in, I went inside, couldn't find my parents, who were always in the living room in specific spots. She literally just walked in the house in front of me, couldn't find either one of them. Came back outside thinking it was a minute later. Half the friends were gone. I asked my butt, where'd they go? And he said, well, you've been inside for 2 hours. And I said, no, I've been inside for like a minute. And he laughed. He says, you've been gone for 2 hours. Well, you should have seen it, because as soon as you went inside, this thing shot up into the sky right above your house. It was like a firework. And he made a movement with his arm, like shooting something straight up into the sky. He didn't say it was a UFO. He didn't say it was, alien spacecraft. He just said it was something.
And there were a good deal more of witnesses over the decades.
Yeah.
When there are hundreds. And CBS News found my footage of these craft quite convincing. But I'd want to return for a second to, I'm sure there's plenty of worlds. Why would they come here? Well, that really doesn't matter, because they are here. Surely you've seen photos of flying saucers. Well, guess who's in them? It's not a piñata filled with candy. It's not
not the Russians.
It's not
Chinese.
Yes, they're here. And
I know there's definitely something going on. It's just a question, like, if their intent was to take over, this was my question. Basically, I don't understand what the attraction would be for taking over this. I mean,
what the reason?
What are they taking? What would they be taking over? Our
the
infrastructure, everything.
Yes, our planet, our biological diversity of 1 billion species, our water that is not frozen ice and it's not ammonia or methane. It's a glorious planet, and they apparently want it, because they told me to my face, more closer than I see you, about as close as Sean is here. Soon we will all live here together, and everyone will know.
And did they say the same thing to you, Sean?
No, I never asked. They usually don't offer up information unless you ask. And sometimes when you ask, they get angry. Only once, actually, did I see him get angry. But I asked if they take everyone. And his response was, no, not everyone, which doesn't sound like it's, just a couple of people. And then when I asked why do they take me, that's when he got not happy. He wasn't happy.
And why do you suppose your family was targeted?
No idea. Whether it was just happenstance that my mother was out, or, whether it was her father before that, which I doubt, but.
He died in World War II. It could go back that far. But these abductions are not something that's gone on for thousands of years. Where were the abductions in the Roaring 20s? Where were they in the Civil War? They showed up en masse when we became a nuclear power and potentially a threat. And their attention paid to our nuclear missile silos is pretty clear evidence of that. This hasn't been going on forever. The hybrid they introduced me to in 1979, he was not close to passing for human. He was one of the intermediate stages. But that was a very interesting thing. So, yeah, and a lot of people say, well, if they were going to attack us or take over, they'd have done it right now. Well, guess what? They've never seen the movie Independence Day. They didn't know they're supposed to show up and blow up the Taj Mahal and the White House, which of course led to humans joining together to defeat them. They are smarter than we are. That's why nobody has what I consider to be a true photo of a gray. Nobody. That's why, for the first time, science is trying to investigate something that's smarter than they are, and has the added benefit of controlling your mind.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's huge advantage is being able to control your mind. I not only have they done it to me, but they've done it. I've seen them do it to other people, including my mother that I just described. Yeah, whatever is going to happen, it's going to be their decision, because I don't see us doing anything about it. They're just so beyond us. It's incredible. The stuff they can do that physics don't apply to them. It's not just the craft. The beings themselves are more powerful than the craft are.
Yes, a lot of people make the mistake thinking, wow, these ships, if we just get a hold of them, we're on even ground.
Technology.
Yeah, they think
they
that's right.
Forget what comes with this technology.
Who built the ships? Who showed up in the ships? This disclosure project.
If I were to go ahead,
no.
I would say if I were talking to Joe Rogan, how I would explain it to him is, pretend you're the UFC champion. You're the champion of the world. Don't be in too big a hurry to have somebody come here who can clean your clock, because whether they do or not will be up to them.
The great advantage these beings have over us, make no mistake, it's not their technology, as startling and beyond us as it is. It is their ability, their innate ability to control your mind. They use it as a weapon when they are abducting you. They're reading your minds in real time. And if you think of resisting or fighting or running or screaming, they will paralyze you instantly where you stand with their mental powers. And then when they get closer to you, they will let you remember them. But at the same time, and they go like, first of all, let me just correct a myth out there that the aliens would speak robotically or stiffly. These beings are in your mind. They know everything that happened to you, and they know how people talk to you. They know how the language as you've heard it, and they speak to you in very conversational English. They will use slang. They will use contractions.
The odd part for me is, even when they're talking to each other and I overhear them, like I did in the basement, they're also speaking in conversational English. Like, we're gonna get caught, not we're going to be caught. So it's, to me, that's the strangest thing about them. They're very human-like, but they're not humans.
They're good at mimicking. I've had them use sarcasm on me when they were really pissed when the conversation with my hybrid son didn't go the way they like. And another myth, while we only have moments, is that another misconception is that, they're emotionless. They're robots, they're avatars, they're just computers. They have emotions completely. They don't have all our emotions, most of the negative ones. They can be very angry. They can lash out at you. And it's a real emotion, because when they have an intense emotional reaction, whether it's surprise or anger or something, you feel it. It hits you like a wave in the chest. If you've ever been to a rock concert, you're standing in front of the bass amp and it's thumping, and you feel that. You feel their emotions.
Yeah.
Now, when they were talking about my hybrid kid, I got to tell you, they really liked him. They were proud of him. And meeting me had nothing to do with me. They don't care about the humans. But the kid asked again and again and again to meet me. And they said no, until they said yes. And this is what they said to me. They sprung it on me, and I was still sedated to some degree, and there's the kid, and like, go talk to him. Go talk to him. So those are two things that people have to get their heads around. The Greys are living beings, okay? Everyone is reaching, they're AIs, they're avatars, they're robots, they're C-3PO, they're the robot from Lost in Space. They're scared that beings exist out there and came here. And so they put up these mental blocks. And another thing is believing they don't have emotions. They do. And most of them are like bored, resentful that they're there.
For me, I felt good emotions from them as well. One was excited one time when I did something. One cared. I could feel cared for me when I was upset one time and wanted to know what was wrong and made it better. And of course he got yelled at by the tall gray.
He revealed something he wasn't supposed to.
Yeah, he talked about the future. They're so smart that they know the future. I'll put it that way. They, on 2 occasions, they told me something that was going to happen, and it happened.
And it was very unlikely.
Very unlikely.
And it was something they shouldn't have.
Had no idea. He should have had no idea what I was even talking about, let alone the future of it.
It was cultural. It wasn't the news.
Yeah.
And yes, they can be very kind and they can be considerate.
Let me just ask. I want to ask a little bit about the hybrids. First of all, where are they? You said first of all that they're kind of they don't look well so far.
No. In 1979 they did not.
All right. But where are these hybrids? I mean, what are they doing with them? And first of all, my number one question is, what type of problems would hybrids solve for them, since you have communication with them?
Well, if you read Dr. David Jacobs, who is I never recommend researchers, even though we work with Bud Hopkins. I like what Carla Turner had to say, but that was a very long time ago. Dr. David Jacobs is absolutely right. I have never read anybody who had it close to right. And from the abductees that he has talked to in the last 5-10 years, they are now at the stage where they pass completely for human visually, but they're still aliens on the inside with all the hive mind, with all the minds linked, and with all the powers to control. And where are they? According to Jacobs and so many abductees, who I don't like to rely on, I like to just speak about what I know. They are now in apartments. A lot of abductees aren't brought in ships. They're brought to the apartments where these human-looking hybrids are living.
I remember David talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the benefit is they're hiding in plain sight. If 20 of your neighbors are hybrids, you don't know it.
Why is human DNA necessary?
Ask them.
Yeah.
Ask them.
Some of this.
You're the one who's communicating with them.
Yeah. Well, guess what? They don't take you and say, listen, here's why human DNAs.
But you're asking them other things. You've talked to them about other things. I'm just saying, why, what do they explain to you on why they're doing this? Why are they doing I don't get it.
Most of my questions were when I was a child. So I had the questions of a child. For me, I don't remember asking them questions recently. They just kind of grabbed me and went. But I don't think they'll explain everything to you. But I don't know. And you're not in that state of mind when they come and get you. It's like, why don't you ask the doctor exactly what he's doing when you're under sedation in the operating room? You might ask him beforehand. But when you're under sedation, you're just not of a clear mind.
And you're always sedated to one degree or another with them. But if I didn't make this clear, I did not know they were making hybrids from me until 1979, the summer of 79, when they introduced me to one.
And then
they sprung it on me. And then they made me forget it until we fought for our memories back in 1996. This is what the abductions are for. They're not to like aliens won't sit you down and go, tell me about your favorite religion. What's a family like? Who was your favorite Beatle? They don't care what you have to say. And if they want to know what you have to say, they just reach into your mind and read it. So they hadn't told me any of that. It's not like they said, we're using a recombinant RNA with some code we took out of whales or crows. No, they don't tell you. And they never trust anybody who will tell you they know what the name of the race is, or what planet they come from, or how their ships work, because they don't give out evidence. They know that this is a war, and we should know it. And we are losing badly, by the way. After 80 years, they've already got our replacements out there in society, and they're hiding it in place. And they're winning this war without ever firing a single shot. They're winning this war with even UFO experts scratching their heads, wondering what's going on.
What about the government?
It doesn't. First of all, what's your opinion, Sean?
Well, my opinion is the government's handling it the correct way. If you won't answer the first question, you're never asked the follow-up questions, and those are the questions they really want to avoid. And so far, none of the disclosure people have come up with a second question. It's, are these UFOs real, basically? And once they say yes, I'm sure somebody might think of a follow-up question. Mm-hmm. And guess what? They're probably not going to like the answer to the follow-up questions, because it's either going to be, we don't know, or it's not great news. So yes. I'm sure they're well aware that people are being abducted. I'm sure they have information that we don't, perhaps. I don't know. But I think they're handling it correctly. If any of the politicians know, they're using plausible deniability. They probably don't know. This is definitely a military a military operation. They're the right ones to be handling it.
The grays, there's a hierarchy, a rank: short gray, tall gray, mantis. And the mantis, no goddamn good, threatened to kill my dog and my parents because I saw him.
So they're all working together?
No, they're working in the short grays are the bottom of the totem pole. They're not together. They're not equals. The tall grays are above them, and the mantis, because I was there, are above the tall grays. And the tall grays couldn't disobey them, but they tried their best to save me from this vengeful, angry mantis. And I'm here. I'm here.
I never saw a mantis myself, but I do know the shorter grays are intimidated by the taller gray. It's not just, he's got rank on me, so he barks the orders. I mean, he really lets them know he's a boss you wouldn't want to work for. We'll put it that way. He's a real whip cracker.
I've seen him petrified of the tall grays, of disappointing, of failing. And so people who think, let me disillusion a whole bunch of people right here, people who think they're going to raise us up to be equals, have to realize that they are not equals.
Yeah, they don't even treat themselves like equals.
They are very rigid hierarchy, military. I did say 1 hour is not going to cover what we know. We haven't even talked about the time we went to an underground facility with over 300 abductees. We haven't talked in detail about our hybrids. Well, we'll leave people hanging if we need to.
Yeah. And just one last thing here. Over the years, have you ever found other people that claim they have very similar, experiences to yourselves?
Oh, absolutely. There are many. We are legion. All right. There are many. And I open spaces, welcome people in to talk about it. And every week someone comes in and he goes, nobody believes me about this, but they did this or they were wearing that. And I go, absolutely. Nothing makes me happier than confirmation of details that I am the only one I've ever heard talk about, that Sean is the only one he's talked about. And another thing we're going to have to get into at some point is they had Sean perform acts of telekinesis. And they were very pleased with his success. And Sean aimed his gun at a cop once. Or, I mean, when he was a cop. Don't aim your guns at cops. That's no. An alien was attempting to abduct him on aliens during your shift, right?
And do you think, like, just say you shot the alien, do you think they're biological like us and you would kill, it would die? I mean, is that that would be a guess, right?
At least allegedly they've died in crashes. So I would assume so, but I don't know if he would have let me get to that, you know.
Do you have a minute? Sean will tell you what happened. And there is
sure, go ahead. Yeah.
All right. Well, I lived in the city that I worked in, and late at night I would stop home sometimes if it was a quiet night. And I have a circular driveway. I pull up in my circular driveway and I walk towards the front door, and I've got an open courtyard. It doesn't have a roof over a portion of it. And as I'm walking to the front door, I see 3 UFOs fly overhead from the north towards the south. And it's instant panic. You know, you get butterflies in your stomach. You're like, oh no. Okay. And then they keep going, and it's instant relief. You're like, oh, great. They're not here for me. And sure, they're not. So the one on the left side basically just did a U-turn and started coming back towards me. And in a panic, I got terrified again. And I don't know why I was so terrified. I've dealt with them my whole life, but it still can be quite alarming. So I ran for the door, got the door open, but tripped going in. The screen door's hitting me in the feet. I'm flat on my ass inside the doorway, and the craft had come down. I couldn't see it because the courtyard was in the way of the wall, but it was in front of the police car, and there's a tall gray at the end of the courtyard, and I had my gun out in fear and pointed it towards him. And what he said, he kind of made a movement with his arm. He made a gesture. And he said, well, if you're going to be like that. And he turned around and started walking back towards his craft. And he was, what's the word I'm looking for? He was completely offended that I had pointed a gun at him. So I put the gun away. I marched back after him and said, no. And that's all I remember happening. So I'm assuming I was taken after that, but who knows?
One last thing, if you would, okay?
Yeah.
Everyone, not everyone, but there are people saying they want to know more about the underground situation. And then we can just wrap it up there if you don't mind.
Well, I'd love to tell you, but it's a lengthy, it was a crazy all-day event. I'll speed it up. They took us, and we're in that little craft, that Airstream trailer, and Mom and my brother were completely tranced out, and me, I was in a sedated mood, and they take away things like fear, panic, reason, and all those things that make you who you are, and they turn you into kind of a zombie. But they didn't take away curiosity. I wanted to see what my city looked like from above. I'd never been in a plane at that point. I was 9. So I got out of my seat and I walked up behind them quietly to look out the quote unquote windshield. And one of them turned and screamed at me, "This one's up, put him back." And a wave of anger hits me. Tall gray puts me in my seat. A few minutes later, the craft is stabilized and they're not working on anything. And the other one, who didn't yell at me, swivels his chair around and says, humorously, he's like, "What was your plan? Anyway, what were you doing?" And as if I was like going to take over the ship and put him in headlocks or something. And I said, "I just wanted to see what my city looks like from above." And the gray said, "Oh, okay. Well, we don't go up." I didn't understand him. And he goes, "Well, we go up a little bit, but then we go down." And the angry alien who yelled at me, screamed. They argue with each other a lot. They're all individuals, but they're all linked. The alien screams at the one who just told me that. Shut up. What are you doing? You can't tell them that. You can't tell them anything. And the other one says, the nice one, good cop, said, oh, come on. The kid is curious. That's a good thing, right? Besides, he's never going to remember any of this. And the mean one said, well, just don't. Next thing I remember, we're getting out of this Airstream, the shuttlecraft, and there are hundreds of people. It's like a busy train station. There are lines of people going this way and that way. There are lines of people standing in line, frozen and paralyzed. And I'm completely disoriented. I see mom and my brother getting led this way through a big open area and away from me. I panic. I go after them. I'm cutting through people in trances who are fully grown, and I'm a kid. And the tall gray sees it, and he comes over, and he's like, whoa, 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 where are you going? And I said, that's my mom. That's my family. I got to go with them. And he goes, no, you're over here. And he moves me to a line, and he puts me in that line and paralyzes me where I stand. I'm not panicking anymore, and I'm awake, but you can't even turn your head. You can move your eyes. Now, suddenly, behind me, someone starts waking up. And he starts moaning and crying. And then he says, this isn't a dream. This is really happening. This isn't a dream. Help me. And he's screaming for help. And they pulled him out of line, made him disappear down a corridor before he woke up the herd. And I will say it was the only time, I hate to even bring them up. It was the only time I saw reptilians with my own eyes. There was a little stream running between some of the lanes, and they were standing on a little footbridge. And there were two of them. And when this guy started freaking out, they kind of started laughing. And the tall gray had them come over. They were working security, it looked like. There were so many people. There must have been over 300 abductees at that site. And yeah, I mean, I have other details, but I know we're so short on time.
Yeah. Well, thank you both. I want to slide it back to you both so I can see you both. Thank you both for being here. It's quite interesting, I'll say. Very interesting. I really appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Sure. You are very welcome. And you know the answers now. You're no longer guessing. We have told you what is happening. And I urge you to take it seriously because it's not going to stop. This is it. The bad news. Take care of your families and have a great life. But thank you for having us on. And we're very glad to be on this historic podcast.
Wow. Thank you. And thank you for this very nice little hit there. Very nice tip. Thank you. All right. So you take care now. Thank you, everyone. We'll be back next Tuesday night at 9 p.m. And that's with Marianne Robb and Dave Rich. And then the following Thursday, hopefully James Fox will be here. And I do appreciate everyone participating tonight. Thanks so much. And remember to keep your eyes to the